the Old Astoria Neighborhood Association's monthly meeting on February 10th. We thank you for joining us, and we're looking forward to a very interesting evening. I'd like to start with a few announcements. First of all, I've just received some information that the 114th Precinct Sector D, which encompasses the waterfront area here, will have their Build a Block session meeting. And if you have any questions about it, you go to 718-626-2708 and ask for Lieutenant Miguel Figueroa. Okay, the actual event will be happening Tuesday, February 16th, 2021. The meeting starts at 6 p.m. and it's going to be virtual via Zoom. And I can't give you the link right now, but what I will do is if you contact Lieutenant Figueroa, I'm sure that you can get all that information that you need. So please support them. This is their way of outreach to the community in these trying times. This is very important, so please support that. Also, I want to announce that on the 25th of February, Old Astoria Neighborhood Association, in cooperation with the Eastern Mediterranean Business and Cultural Alliance, the Greek Homeowners Association, HEPA District 6, will be presenting an event with Oath. Oath is New York City's Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings, and it's going to be at 2 p.m. And Oath Commissioner Joni Ketter, and Oath senior staff will be presenting on what to do if you get a summons, and Oath's mission and procedures, and how to protect yourself and correctly litigate any issues that you have. This is for summons and violations. There's no jury, but this is how you talk to the city to try and see if you can get your fines mitigated and things like this. This is very important, so we hope you join us. Okay, this will be on YouTube Live, and it's on the YouTube page for the Eastern Mediterranean Business and Cultural Alliance. If you have any further questions about it, you can please send me an email, richard@oana-ny.org. We'll put that in the comments section, and I can give you the link at a later time. Thank you. Okay, this has been an interesting time, and I'm not sure, has the councilman arrived yet in our backstage?
Yes, he's here.
Okay, well, I am very, very pleased and proud to present Councilman Constantanides. Over the last 7+ years, he has done wonders for the Western Queens, in particular our waterfront area. I know that he's had a special focus on the area to the west of 21st Street, a focus that we've needed. This is an old redlined area that really was in desperate need for assistance, and Costa really fit the bill. I know he always focused on it. He's done wonders in our parks. He's done wonders for much of our community, and we greatly appreciate it. We're here to discuss a couple of his initiatives that are coming to fruition now. So I'd like to bring Costa on and say hello. Costa, please join us.
Hey, Richard, how are you?
Good.
Good to see everyone. Good to be here at Oana, the Old Astoria Neighborhood Association. I'm always glad to join you. I wish I was joining you in person, not only because I'd be able to see all of you, because you always have the best food at your event, but you did. But I miss you guys very much, and I hope everyone's staying safe and staying healthy in this new year. Just wanted to give you all a really quick update on some of the things that are happening. I know that Richard alluded to it, but this spring, finally, the old radio tower, and I know EDC is going to talk about this tonight, so I'm not going to belabor it, but it took a long time. It took a lot of hard work, But myself, the borough president, we funded several years ago the restoration of the wetlands in Hallets Cove. And the radio tower will be torn down. The fencing will be fixed. The concrete will be fixed. The wetlands will be restored. And, we'll have a beautiful functioning, wetland in Hallets Cove where it has stood a broken radio tower for 40 years. And, this administration came in the same time I did. And I'll chastise those before us, the administrations before us, that for some reason they felt that this was okay, right? That for where this was placed, that it was in, Western Queens, it was west of 21st Street, that it was okay to leave this decaying dock decaying in our cove for over 40 years. And everyone just kind of shrugged their shoulders that this is the way it is. And, I don't understand the lack of action, but I am glad that we're able to finally get this done under this administration and with their partnership to finally see it happen. So they're going to break ground this coming spring. And, it doesn't really feel like it because we keep being buried in snow. But spring is coming. Spring is only 39 days away, but who's counting? We're not that far away from spring, and spring will bring new things. Springs will bring, new life. Spring will bring new life to our cove. So I'm very excited in the construction that's going to be going on there. At Whitey Ford Field, we've seen construction start. And that's a $2 million initiative between Borough President Donovan Richards and I. That construction has begun. We'll be having a groundbreaking soon. We were supposed to have a groundbreaking a couple of weeks ago, but it snowed. So we will have that groundbreaking again very soon. And I'm very excited about that because I know that's a ball field that's well utilized. And if you've played it, I know, Neil and so many of the organizers and friends of Whitey Ford Field were fighting for a renovated field for a long time. We're finally going to see that come to fruition. And, that construction has started and should be done early next year. And I know that you're going to have the library. You're going to have the DDC here later on, and they're going to talk about the library and the Astoria Library. It's a historic library, a Carnegie Library, open since the early 1900s. We're talking about, 100+ years. But, if you're a senior or someone who struggles to get upstairs or a parent with a stroller, it's really difficult to get into that library because of the beautiful staircase. Well, we're going to have a brand new elevator. It's going to be made ADA compliant. We're going to have a beautiful new addition on the Astoria Library, over $8.5 million secured by my office and the borough president. So I'm really glad to be partnering to finally bring that library. And it's going to take a little time. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's going to, DDC will go into this, but the timeline's not tomorrow. Shovels will go in the ground like 2023. Won't be done until 2024. I'll be out of office by then, which, is okay. In office, we're supposed to plant seeds, for trees that under which we're never going to see the shade. But the great part about it, I'm trying to do this from my phone because my internet was not made for this. Oh, there I am. Okay. There I am. Hello?
Go ahead.
There I am. So yeah, my internet was not made for Zoom. It does not want to cooperate. But I can do this. I have unlimited data on my phone, so I can do it that way. But, we're supposed to do things that are for the betterment of the community. And I'm going to still live here, and I'm going to enjoy that library with everyone else. So I want to thank everyone who was part of, the push to get that library renovated because it really needed it. And, lastly, there was a sort of, it kind of flew a little bit under the radar. I tried to highlight it, but we're getting a big, Equinor Wind, which is a Norwegian company. Equinor is got a grant by NYSERDA from the state, which is, they're going to be bringing over 1,200 megawatts of wind energy off of the Atlantic Ocean plugging into Astoria. So they're going to plug in northern Astoria. That's 1,200 megawatts of wind energy, renewable energy that's coming plugged into our grid, into our neighborhoods. I'm very excited about that. Equinor is going to be a great partner. I've had wonderful conversations with them. I look forward to working with them as they, build the pipeline that's going to bring that energy to our neighborhood. And frankly, our neighborhood has been overpopulated with fossil fuel burning power plants for too long. And, the asthma rates are sort of the result of that. Where, OANA sits. 1101, 1102, 1106 have the highest asthma rates in our district and higher than the borough average of Queens. So it's time to see those power plants shut down. The dirty plants have to close. We need renewable energy, and and Equinor is going to be bringing 1,200 megawatts, which is a lot of power, into our neighborhood with clean renewable energy that is going to be emissions free. So that's a big deal. I'm looking forward to that. I think lastly, I funded in last year's budget. It feels like yesterday, but 2020 kind of shot by and took forever at the same time. 2020, the budget last June, we secured $3 million for Mount Sinai, Queens. That's over $10 million during my time in office. Every dollar they'd asked for, we've given them, because I know how important it is to have good health care in our community, and including the stroke center that opened 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And additionally, we funded the bio bus at the Astoria houses. So the bio bus will have a permanent home at the Astoria houses. I'm looking forward to them having a learning lab on the campus, and really kind of bringing their learning to the kids of the Astoria houses. So I think that's a full update. I know you have a lot of speakers, but Richard, thank you for having me as always, and thank you for all that you do in the community. I hope you're feeling well.
And you too.
You're much better. I'm doing a lot better than I was, man. COVID, as you can still see, I'm not quite where I was before. I was as low as 172 pounds when I was at my most sick. That's down about 40 pounds from where I was pre-COVID. I'm at $191 right now, so get a good weight. So I'm getting a lot better than I was, but I hope everyone's still washing their hands. I hope everyone's staying social distant. I hope no one went to a Super Bowl party this weekend. And please, we're getting more sites for vaccination. We just got Citi Field open today with a lot of advocacy from the borough president and other electeds. We pushed hard to get, Citi Field open. So, we are going to continue to fight for more vaccination sites as we get more shots from the federal government. So if you're eligible for a vaccine, go on New York City Vaccine Finder, get a shot. It takes some time. It took days and days and days for me to find a shot for my mother-in-law. But then, I stayed on the computer and I stayed at it. And she's 70 years old. And then, she doesn't know how to use a computer. So I had to figure it out for her. But there was no council member Jedi trick. It was just me on the computer, like checking it every couple of hours while I was doing other things. And I found her shot 2 weeks ago out in Brooklyn. So, keep at it. If you're eligible for a vaccine, get the vaccine. The more vaccines we get in the people's arms, the quicker we get back to real life. So I just hope everyone will be able to stay safe. And as we get more shots from the federal government, I'm going to try to get a vaccine. I'm trying to get HANIC. I'm trying to get the Variety Boys and Girls Club. Both been very gracious in volunteering to be potential sites for vaccine distribution. But until we get more shots, that can't happen. So I'm fighting to get more vaccine locations as soon as we get more shots. So with that, I hope everyone's staying safe and staying healthy.
Good. We have actually quite a bit in the comments. Okay, there are quite a few questions here. Here's one in particular I know the answer of, but you can come up with it. It says, thanks for the wonderful news on the watershed. However, have there been any initiatives to beautify the waterfront, which is being used as a pedestrian walkway? And I think that's, we can discuss actually the promenade around Astoria houses, which is another initiative that's starting now.
The seawall project is starting soon, so they're going to be rebuilding the seawall. So yes, so the seawall will be rebuilt and the cove will be beautified.
From Neil, he says he noticed that the funding increased $900,000 for Whitey Ford Field. Do you happen to have any idea where that money came from? He says
We
it's
had
on
to
the
move.
parks tracker.
We had to move some money around from another project that wasn't fully funded because there was an issue with the lighting. When they started like drilling down, they found that the lighting was unstable, so we had to replace the lighting. So we found another $900,000. So if this project's shovels are in the ground, the other project that's in a different part of the district was not fully funded and was not going to be fully funded for a long time. So we took some money and moved it over to get this project done because we need to get this project started. It's overdue.
Good. Okay, let's see. I guess there's a question about the Steinway Library branch. They say it's been closed for 2 years, so I think someone else stated here that it's not closed. It'll stay open. What are you aware of that?
It is closed. The construction should be done this month, coming up in March. But it's not that simple. So let's be really honest with one another. I mean, the Broadway branch is open, but it's not open. I walk past it all the time on my way to my mother-in-law's house. And like right now, that's not a grab and go site, so it's closed. So like we have 2 hurdles to jump. They have to finish the construction, which is number 1, and then they would have to make that a grab and go site. So I don't want to make any promises right now with COVID. Like there is no like going into a library. You go into a library, you get a book, and you leave. So the Steinway branch, I'm pushing it for the construction to be done on time by the end of March. That's the timeline they gave me. But then you have to jump the secondary hurdle of it being open post-COVID. So I'm not sure when that's going to be, and I don't want to make any promises based on, QPL has staffing issues on keeping people safe. I know that the Astoria Library is a grab-and-go site. It's not fully open either. It's open for grabbing and going. So there's a possibility the Steinway branch will be a grabbing and going site, but I don't want to, it's not going to be open for a very long time.
A question from Dory asking about the NRG opening the new fracking plant. Any news on how we can stop it?
Make your voice heard to the make your voice known to the state, to NYSERDA, to the governor that we don't want it in our neighborhood.
Okay, I think that looks like, if I missed anything, guys, put it up again. And if in fact, and you have any questions now or later, if you put down your email address, we can get an answer for you, and we can email it to you, and that goes on for the whole night now. But Costa, you're getting a lot of comments and a lot of support. A lot of people love you, and the neighborhood is so much better because you were with us for the last 8 years. So thank you so much for that.
Richard, thank you. And look, this was a partnership. It always was. I appreciate your partnership. I appreciate working with you. You've been a great partner. And, it's been my pleasure. This is the neighborhood I grew up in. I've been really lucky to represent this community for the last 7+ years. And I have no idea what the future brings for me, but I know that I love this neighborhood. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to continue to be a resident here. I'm going to continue to be a citizen. I'm looking forward to be partnering with you on many other things in the future, no matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing, and continuing the good work that we've started here. So
I'm looking forward to it
giving
too.
me the opportunity.
Okay. Thank you, Costa. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great night, everyone. Good night.
Let's see. Next on the agenda, actually, we would like to bring out the Astoria Library renovations, New York City EDC and the Queens Library that Costa was just discussing. If you could bring Anthony Romeo on and Jeremy Zorer, the manager of our local branch. Hi, guys.
Hi, Richard.
Hello.
Good to see you again. Yeah. And Jeremy, it's great to see you again. It's sort of weird to see you in 2 dimensions instead of 3.
Exactly. It's good to see you too.
The library has been, it's got quite a history to it. It's a Carnegie library, one of the original ones. I'm not sure the exact age of it, but it's been a great asset. It's been overlooked. And, what you have planned is so great. As somebody who has disabilities myself, I know that accessibility is so important. It really can change the whole definition of what a library can do for a community. And given the times that we have nowadays, with the need for many virtual communications, things like that, the library can provide things that a lot of homes just don't have. So it's very important that this is happening. We had actually put together a little quote from Oana. It says, "Libraries are the heart of a community, a resource essential for growth and understanding for all ages, from tots to seniors. With these upgrades, especially accessibility, all of our community will now be able to share in this great enhanced space. This library has been particularly important to Old Astoria, providing a destination for our young people, especially after school, when access to both physical books and the internet can make a difference for academic success and for their future in general." So this is something that we put out, and we really are looking forward to hearing what the plans are. So Jeremy, would you want to start off with just some discussions on what's happening with our local branch before we get into the construction?
Of course. Thank you for that wonderful quote. I 100% agree. We are really excited to, as the councilman was saying earlier, that we are a grab and go site. So the Astoria Library, while not open for browsing or coming into using the internet, we are open to get materials. So you can order books, movies, CDs through our website, queenslibrary.org. You can order it through our app. You can also just give us a call at the library, 718-278-2220. And we are there to provide you with all the materials that the library can provide you for. We are also doing remote printing. So if you have something that needs to be printed, you can still get it printed. You just you have to upload your documents to a OneDrive site, but it's actually pretty straightforward, and the same amount of printing stands. It's 20 pages of printing per day that the library will be providing for you. If you have any questions about what we can do with that, just give us a call again. There's always someone going to be there for you. And we also have programming. We're still doing programming, just not in person. So
I know the feeling.
We have grab and go programs, lots of different programs for kids that we're offering. You just come in to the library, pick up some bags of program. We're doing an art program. Right now, we're going to be putting together one about Basquiat, and it's a family program as well. So kids of all ages and their siblings or their parents or grandparents can get into this fun. We also have a program that we can do through the computer. So Queens has its own YouTube page that we have all these different programs, story times, arts and crafts. We also have programming for adults as well. So while we're closed-ish, we're still very much open.
Good. As is the whole country.
Yes.
Good. Great. Thank you so much. Anthony Romeo, is it?
Yes.
Yes. And with the Department of Design and Construction, we're very pleased to have you. He's going to give us an overview on the plans for the renovations of this wonderful library. And hopefully you have a little bit about the history too.
Yes, and thank you, Richard, and good to see you, Jeremy. And I am an architect, but I'm also the program director for the Queens Library Unit at the DDC. And it's a blessing, really. I mean, I couldn't have asked for more as an architect to be involved in libraries, and especially in Queens, which I think is an amazing borough. I would like to share my screen if I can, and I'll go through a little PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully this works. Does that work? Can you see the screen?
Not yet. It worked before.
How about now? Yes?
Hey, Anthony. No, I don't see your presentation yet. You have to make sure you select the application you want to share and hit share.
I'm sorry. I am having a technical. I told it okay. Now I got to get back to where I was. I'm looking for my. It doesn't say on here.
You have to open it first on your desktop and then choose
It
to
is
share it.
open. Yeah. Let me try this again.
So you generally have two options. You could share your entire screen or just share the program individually.
I'm going to share my screen.
Okay, there we go. I see you're sharing your screen.
Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, I can. You can make it full screen if you want.
Okay, good. Sorry for the.
I don't see it here though.
Oh, I'm waiting for him to put in view mode.
Ah, okay. I see. Ah, bravo. Here we go.
Yes?
There you go.
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay, so this is an exciting project. We're really looking forward to it. The general scope of work is, as Councilman Costa mentioned, it's going to be a fully accessible renovation, meaning that we're going to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act legislation, and there'll be a new elevator. We're going to be getting rid of those entry stairs, and I'll show you that in a moment. A whole new entrance. Everything's going to be accessible for anyone with any kind of a disability or hardship. So, and it's very important. And I happen to be working with the councilman on some other libraries in your area and in Queens that he's responsible for and funded, and they too are being upgraded. So this is a very important initiative throughout Queens that I'm very proud to be a part of. So the building was originally a Carnegie Library built in 1904, and it was a Flemish revival style with a corner entry, and you can see it in this image here. It was really a classic Flemish design with the clay tile roof and the detailing on the outside, the stone coining, which is that stone that goes around the windows and around the entry door. It was quite a beautiful building. But over the years, the library was modified in various ways, and we have what we have today, which is still a beautiful library. But as the councilman mentioned, you have these stairs that go up into the entrance, and there's a lot of steps. I mean, there's about 10 steps, as you all know, and it can be rather challenging to get up there. And certainly, I'm among those that would be challenged. So, and there are a lot of other parts of the building that aren't ADA compliant. There's no elevator and so on. So, what we're planning on doing is on the new the new first floor plan. There'll be an ADA ramp, a very slight ramp that gets you into the entrance at the corner. There'll be new ADA compliant restrooms, which means they'll be more spacious. A new elevator, as I mentioned, a new adult reading area, a new teen and cyber center, and they'll be all new inside, complete gut renovation. And then on the lower level, we'll have a new children's room and reading area, a new multi-purpose room, and then there'll be also staff space as well. Now, one of the important features that makes this library exciting is that there are two murals that were painted in the 1930s as part of the Works Progress Administration, the federal program under Roosevelt. and they were actually by Max Spivak, and they are important as works of art and historic works of art in New York. So the program, as people may or may not know, the Department of Cultural Affairs has a program in which for every, there's a called Percent for Art. So the Percent for Art program takes 1% of total project budget, and it's used for public art. So in this case, which is a wonderful, absolutely wonderful program, and in this case, these murals are going to be carefully removed and preserved, somewhat restored, and then replaced by special archivists. And really, it's very exciting because they are so important to the history of the United States, and we have them right here in Queens and Astoria. And I think it's something that people will be able to showcase more and have as a source of pride. This is the architect's concept of the drawing for the adult reading room. And this is the exterior. And the architects are Yoshiara McKee Architects, and they're a part of the Project's Excellence team that we have at the DDC. And they were chosen about a year ago. And this is, except for the COVID pause, which was unfortunate frankly, for everybody. And we did not have them working for the last several months, but they've restarted, and they're really hitting the ground running, working on this library. And this is the exterior. And you can see this part here, you see on the outside, is actually the new entry lobby. You no more steps. You enter right here at the front, and then there's a stair going to the main floor. There's also an elevator that could take you up or down. So, and it's spacious, it's light, it's bright, and the rest of the building will have new windows and be restored as well. And that's it. So I'm sorry for let's see if I can get out of this. Stop sharing. Okay.
Okay. If anybody has any questions, and if you're viewing this on YouTube or Facebook, all you got to do is type your question into the chat, and it'll come to us, and we'll be able to relay it to our presenters. So let us know. I have one question. I wondered whether, in terms of the importance of sustainability, and it can also be educational, is there a thought towards utilizing solar panels or windmills or anything like that within this renovation? I know that, yeah.
Well, it is. We do follow sustainable guidelines for the HVAC system, air conditioning that's going to be installed, the windows, the materials that are being used will be sustainable or green, as they say. I was very excited to hear about those windmills and coming to Astoria, and that's tremendous. But no, there won't be any.
You'll hear more about it later tonight if you stay on. Yep.
If the project were larger, there is a mandate, a local law that mandates that we have either a green roof or solar panels, but this project doesn't meet that threshold. But certainly it will have sustainable elements in the design. It's mandatory by the city of New York.
Well, that would be interesting for my concept, because Jeremy, that could give you a very interesting tool to teach.
Yes.
You know, if there was examples of this for our young people. So who knows, maybe down the road, they just implemented something like this right up the street at PS 171. And that was through our councilman. So it'd be nice to see it expanded there also. Other questions. We have one question. Was landmark status ever considered? Are these landmarked?
No, they're not.
And I guess it was not considered. It's interesting, though. From Ernie Brooks, there are many WPM murals in District 30 schools. And Dominique says, murals are amazing. I never saw these as a child. Okay.
They are amazing. It's a very exciting part of the project.
Good. Okay. And, you know, that whole area is growing. So it's a great addition. We know that Astoria Boulevard is going to become definitely an artery into, leaving the waterfront right to the rest of Queens. So it's great to have that there, and it's great to have it in our neighborhood. Are there any other questions that anybody may have? Jeremy, you have any questions of Anthony?
Are you sure this can't start tomorrow?
Yeah, what is the timeline again on this?
The architects are going to be completed with their work by the end of this year, and we'll begin the bidding process early next year, and shovels should be in the ground by the end of next year, and it'll take about 2 years to build. Okay,
and it was probably already answered, but will it be closed during those 2 years, or will it still be open?
Absolutely. This is probably more ambitious than the Steinway renovation, which was similar.
Okay.
We had renovation of the interior, partial renovation of that interior. This is a full renovation, so it'll be closed that full 2 years.
Okay. We do have a question here. The circular bench in the rear yard, will that stay?
Actually, I am not sure about that. I'm not sure. I'll look into it.
And from Carlos, is the project going to be a union shop?
It is prevailing wage.
Okay. And from Dominique again, the project fits into Constantanides' efforts not only to preserve the neighborhood's historic qualities, but also enhance them. What is being done to preserve the historic qualities?
Well, a good deal will be done to save the elements of the building that remain from the 1904 building. But again, much of that has already been removed, including the roof, the clay tile roof, the ornament on the front corner. So but the coining on the outside of the windows, the masonry will all be pointed and repaired and maintained.
Good. Actually, Dominique was asking most of these questions. I've been teaching, within that library for years now. Remind me, Jeremy, what she teaches? As I'm trying to remember exactly what it is.
Yeah, she does our knitting and crochet.
Yes.
Wow.
Great. She's a wonderful sort of mini historian of our neighborhood also.
Oh, yes. She's built me in many stuff when I joined the Astoria branch.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you. Again, if anyone has any further questions, if you want to ask, put it in the comments, give us your email, and we can get you the answer back as soon as possible. Anthony Romeo from DDC, Jeremy Zara from Libraries, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Pleasure.
So, Dominique, can you do crochet and knitting online? I bet you could. Anyways, next on the agenda, we will have the Hallets Cove cleanup and restoration. Our presenter will be Oana, Government and Community Relations for the New York City Economic Development Corporation. Oana, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
All right.
This is another of Costas' initiatives. It's gone through many, many phases. I don't know if you want to get into it, but I do know that at one point this was considered for a kayak launch, for a fishing pier. It's gone through many different visionings. This visioning, though, takes into account the fact that we do have a ferry launch there, so that doesn't restrict some of the activities that can be used. But what is happening there is needed and will be a great enhancement to the area. So, Oana, if you want to take it away, please do.
I will, and I might need some assistance. For some reason, my deck is also not showing up here. So if everyone could just bear with me, I appreciate it.
While we're waiting, we got another message from Dominique. She says, do we want to do a virtual walking tour on the history of our old Astoria neighborhood? I think that's a great idea. So Dominique, let's talk about it further. I think that between you and Neil, we could do something great.
Okay, I think we are almost here. All right, on my screen now. Richard, is it working?
It is.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for bearing with me, and thanks for having me today. To echo the council member, I wish we could be together in person, but obviously happy that we're able to meet safely. And for those who I haven't met yet, my name is Jana Pohorelski, and I'm the Queensborough Director on EDC's Government and Community Relations team. And so I'm here today to provide an update on the cleanup and remediation of Hallets Cove. As I'm sure many of you know, if not everybody, Hallets Cove is located in the backyard of Astoria houses at the end of Vernon Boulevard and 30th Road. And it's an area that I know has been a priority for this community for many, many years. The restoration of Hallets Cove is an opportunity to quite literally change the relationship of the Astoria community with its waterfront. Through support from Councilmember Constantanides and the Queensborough President's Office, as well as through advocacy from the Old Astoria Neighborhood Association and the Astoria Houses Tenants Association, this capital investment aims to do exactly that. So it aims to restore the neighborhood's relationship with the waterfront through cleanup, remediation, and enhancements to its ecological resilience. And I don't think I have to tell you all about what the Cove looks like today, but as the council member mentioned earlier, this is work that responds to conditions that have existed for far too long, from the dilapidated pier that's been an eyesore for many years, to invasive plantings that have taken over, to deterioration of the esplanade railing, as well as litter of trash and debris in the area. Through previous community engagement with this organization, with Astoria Houses, Community Board 1, and others, we have consistently heard about 3 top priorities for the community in this area. So, of course, it's restoring the community's relationship to the waterfront, it's removal of that old radio tower pier, and then enhancing the natural wetland cove area. And at this stage, we're focusing on 2 of these priorities, specifically the cleanup and remediation of the cove. What this will entail is the demolition of the dilapidated pier, replacement of invasive plantings with new Spartina plantings, which will restore the tidal flats, restored esplanade railing and a new railing along Vernon Boulevard, as well as new street tree plantings. And so since our last update to the Old Astoria Neighborhood Association, EDC deployed our operations team to do a manual cleanup. We had heard repeatedly from the Astoria Houses Tenants Association that they were tired of seeing, discarded shopping carts and debris in the cove just outside of where they live and where their children play. And so through that initial cleanup, we were able to dispose of those discarded carts and other debris in the cove. And then, of course, COVID-19 altered a lot for our city. Our original intent was to begin construction last summer, but the pandemic required the city to divert resources to much needed emergency response efforts. So in the meantime, we focused on whatever back-end mobilization we could do. We met with the US Coast Guard several times to ensure that work on the site would be coordinated. We also brought on Skanska as the construction manager, and we secured the necessary permits for a full demolition and construction plan. And that brings us to today. So now that we have been given approval to restart work on this project, which we are so thrilled about, we are laser focused on remobilization efforts, which includes procuring and selecting contractors in the next few months, with the goal of then starting construction by the end of the spring. And so the demolition of the radio tower, the installation of new railing on Vernon Boulevard, and the planting of new street trees and wetland vegetation should be complete just a few months after we get started, with the anticipated completion by early fall. And so I'll end there. Thank you again, Richard, for the opportunity
Mhm.
to provide an update, and to the entire association for your support and advocacy to bring a new future for this cove.
Mhm. Yeah, it's been a long journey. I know, even back 20 years, we were in the community board. We had this as a capital request. We were trying to make it into a fishing pier at that point, maybe even
Wow.
25 years ago. Okay, that was the focus back then. And we're glad to see it's happening. This is part of a whole revitalization of that whole waterfront area. It's very important. We like to see it continue. We hope that it ends. We can figure out ways to make have ferries and kayakers and everything coexist safely. I hope that that's something that happens down the road, that it continues, so that everybody can utilize this as much as possible. Let's see what we have for questions here. Let's see. From Neil, Hallets Point between 26th and 27th Avenue. This is where the first settlers landed. Okay. And from Dominique, I remember the shopping carts in the 50s. She goes, well, the shopping carts, they've been there since the 50s, I think. They were.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, if anybody else has questions concerning this development, concerning uses, what are the plans towards having students access these? Are they thinking of having some sort of classes and teaching down the road? Will they be funded by EDC or anything like that? Is there anything else, beyond the actual construction that you're aware of at this point?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first, the focus really right now is the construction to clean up the area, to remediate the cove, and to just make sure that we can enhance the ecological resilience in the area. I know that we had a really successful pilot of the BioBus, which was a youth science program that took place in the summer of 2019. And then following from the success of that pilot program, the council member actually has formed a partnership with BioBus to bring what I believe to be a more permanent BioBus facility to the area. So I won't speak on his behalf, but I know that that was a really partnership to learn about. And so, if he's still on the line, or maybe for a future, talk a little bit more about that.
Good. We have a few questions coming here. We have Stephanie Wiseman. Are there any plans to do archaeological work in Hallets Cove during reconstruction? I've noticed a lot of artifacts there, including Native American objects.
Wow, that's a really exciting to hear. I don't believe that's part of it. But as always, I mean, if there's something that you find that you've seen before, I'd be interested to hear about it.
Well, I suggest, why don't you can let us know at OANA if you have any sort of an idea of how to proceed with that, if this is something that you have experience at. We, as the name implies, Old Astoria, we're basically very, very interested in the history of this neighborhood, as a gateway it is to Queens and the development of Queens here. So we would support anything that you can put together as much as possible, to put that together. It would be interesting to create some sort of a little museum area or something like that with artifacts, someplace in the neighborhood. That would be great.
Sure.
Even the library, the new library.
It's a great idea, and thanks for raising it. I can bring that back to the team for sure.
Okay. Also, from Carlos Fernandez, is this project related in any way to the one that's supposed to repair the fence along the waterfront walkway? Not really.
It depends on which part of the waterfront you're thinking of, and I'm not sure if you've commented that. But so it would be I don't know if you can see where my mouse is right now, but it's the new railing would be on Vernon Boulevard. And then there is additional railing that I know is part of the Department of Parks and Recreation's work in this area. And
Yep.
As well. So they're also working on some replacement railing.
There's a lot going on in terms of that. Not only is the Parks Department doing the total restoration of the railing right on through the whole peninsula through Astoria houses, The Congresswoman Maloney just announced a study with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on, again, the same situation on the whole waterfront area there to see what repairs are needed. So it's an ongoing effort, but extremely important, especially in these days of climate change. This is going to be just huge to be prepared, to be proactive rather than reactive. So this
Absolutely.
is a part of that, and we hope that it continues. Let me see what other comments we have here. From Dominique, this area is rich in forgotten history. This is very true. Okay. We have Alpaca Jones saying he can track down the tribe. Okay. From Carlos, there's definitely a lot going on, and I was a little lost with the projects and agencies. Appreciate all the information. That's why we're here. We appreciate it. We appreciate that the agencies are forthcoming in their information. They're coming out to us and letting us know what's going on. All these projects are things that we've been working on in one sense or another since I've been doing this, and that's over 20 years. So it's so wonderful to see some of these things come to fruition, and we really greatly appreciate it. We worked with the EDC on a lot of different items over the years, and in general, you know, we've been very happy with what you guys have done. So we're an area that suffered under redlining, as I said, for years. There was no investment in this neighborhood for probably from the 30s up to the 60s when redlining finally ended. But even after that, to be honest with you, when I first moved to Astoria, nobody would walk to the west of 21st Street. It was like no man's land. And thank God we've reached a point now where not only do people walk here, it's actually become the focus of Astoria. So we're looking forward to that continuing. And thank the EDC to being a part of that. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Good. Good. Okay. Next, I don't know if people know this, but my regular job is I'm a musician, and you know, I haven't really worked since March because of the pandemic. So a few months ago, I decided that I wanted to use this Civic Association's meetings as a venue for the performing arts. So we've decided to start a program where we create a small intermission where we bring in different performing artists and with different skill sets to give us a taste of what they're doing and you know, how they're dealing with the pandemic. Our first performer was Virginia Marks, a wonderful singer-songwriter who performed in December. Then last month, we had a wonderful performance of dance and by Valerie Green, and we greatly appreciate what she did. It was wonderful. And this month we decided to do something with words. So we have a huge asset to our community. A young lady who's not only a wonderful artist and writer, she's also is working with Socrates Sculpture Park, and it's Audrey Dimola. And Audrey is a Long Island City native and a multidisciplinary artist and storyteller, adventuring in myth, ecological wellness, and wild body dreaming. She's the author of 4 books of poetry and prose, most recently Wild Light and the Book of Legend, and has performed at venues around New York City, including the Cathedral at St. John the Divine, LaGuardia Performing Arts Center, and the Brooklyn Museum. Audrey has also carried nearly a decade of experience as a celebrated event curator, organizer, and sacred space holder, working creatively in diverse communities, and she has served as director of public programs for her beloved Socrates Sculpture Park since late 2016. So with that, I'd love to bring on Audrey.
Hey, here we are.
Oh, by the way, also, Audrey has the largest and best smile and laugh of anyone in Astoria.
Oh, I'm going to quote you on that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Richard, for thinking of all of us, of all of your fellow artists and making a space. And I think it's wonderful to just be like, now, time for something entirely different. So thank you
Mhm.
for thinking of me. And I'll tell you guys a couple of things about what's going on at Socrates later, but I am here to entertain you. So that's what I will try to do. Um, so also I'm so appreciative of the restoration that's going on. I'm really excited about it. Myself and some colleagues and Socrates affiliated artists have been spending a lot of time in the Socrates end of the Cove where the beach is, and really listening a lot to the rhythms of the water and the river and the world. So I'm excited to hear about these changes. And this is kind of the place that I write from. And I've been writing forever and ever, as long as I can remember. Valentine's Day is coming, and this is my first love forever. So before I go into some super new poems, literally from today, I want to take you into something that is meaning so much to me right now. My work has really been exploring what it means to be a storyteller and a story carrier in the old sense, like around fires, letting the earth, letting myth, letting story move through you as a channel and a vessel. So this is a piece that's coming out of that place, and how seriously I really take that, and how much I invite all of us to think about that again, this kind of lost art of oral storytelling, and these stories in our traditions and other traditions that we need to call back in, call around the fire with us. So there's a quote preceding this, and it's from an amazing project that was actually at the New York Planetarium called "The Stars Hold Our Stories." Quote, "The king chose the storyteller to accompany him on the road to death. He didn't choose a close friend or a spouse or a family member to accompany him. He chose a storyteller." End quote. There's something inside me that tells me where I've been, that whispers to me sweet and sharply about edges of swords and blood drops in the snow and fantastic enchantments and the darkest corners of the darkest wood, of curling smoke and flickering flame and warm breath transfixed by the shadows on cavern walls, on the things we did to survive the night and pass through the winter. The old bones of deep stories twitching, shifting back to life. Myth is like the shape shifter, the coyote, the owl, and the wind in the trees. The sound that seizes your throat underneath your lover, catching the eyes of a creature you do not yet know how to name. I long, as I always have in life after life, for the many-colored cloak of fine spun, wrought and ragged, elegantly wild and spiritually sentient story. Story I feel swirling in my rib cage between the good earth and my dirty feet soles. A place where this world and the other worlds meet. That's where you'll find me. That's where you've always been able to find me. That breath on the back of your neck, warm, blooded hand tousling your hair when you're standing alone. The chimes of the Fae and the swiftness of our forgetting. I am betwixt and between that. Pressing out my arms, folding open my shoulder blades. No book in hand, only eyes on the fire, eyes gaily waltzing with the darkness. To hear this voice is to hear all others within and behind it, calling in the bards, the messengers, the prophetesses from their desert caves and temple halls. Here, our hearts pour libation, lay smoking offering of our love, our laughter, our memories, and our intentions. Something else has led me here, and in service to the highest, I am in service to you. We never walk alone. And in these mythic spaces, we can get the closest we can to them. so they say. I am not I. I am this one walking beside me, whom I do not see. Funny that I'm like, oh, no applause. No, there. Thank you, Richard. I love it.
Oh, bravo! Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
I'm so glad that I have it recorded because I want to sit and listen to each line.
Yes.
You painted a picture. Now I want to interpret it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me know. I love digging into it.
And tell me a little bit before you go. How do you define spoken word? How is it different than, let's say, poetry or songwriting or other disciplines?
Sure. I mean, I would say they're also intimately connected. You know, for me right now, I'm definitely moving towards storytelling, which feels different and kind of takes up more space. But there can be, you know, it kind of is each different artist's style. Some people are, you know, can read very like in a very academic way, or in a very performative way, or in a slam poetry type, like more intense. I really love that style, which is not exactly my style, but yeah. I realized also I neglected to mention the very last line in that piece is from Juan Ramon Jimenez. The I am not I am this one walking beside me, whom I do not see. I love that quote so much. But thanks for asking.
We actually, back 1998 to 2000, I worked with a storyteller, and we did 90 performances in different public schools. And it was storytelling with the musicians and dancers. And it was telling the story of Ali-Baba and the 40 Thieves. So it was wonderful. It was interesting getting up at 5 in the morning to get to an assembly in a school, but it was a great, it was through the Lincoln Center Institute, and it was a wonderful experience. So, you know, there are things you know, within the schools, within the libraries, with what we have around here, you know, more of what you're doing. You know, I think that it's not only about what you create, it's what you're giving to the young people for them to take. So I hope that we can maybe work out something where we can have some sort of classes for young people, what you're doing too, to think about it. So anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's something myself and our amazing Socrates lead educator, Doug, we're putting together a new education program that is weaving art, ecology, and mindfulness. And so I'll be doing some storytelling in that and kind of getting into this embodied listening. I did an ecotherapy training during last year, during COVID time, when I wasn't running around crazy at Socrates. So that's really, it's something I've always been interested in, this affinity with the natural world, but now just having it more at the forefront of my work and how necessary it is. That's what we're all seeing. You know, we cannot delude ourselves with what's happening to us and what's happening to the earth. It's exactly the same. And that's also the place that
This is why the earth has been speaking back to us over the last 9 months.
Exactly. I'm not
it has.
Well,
thank you so much. Let me see if there's any quotes here from anybody. Hold on. Okay. Well, from Alpaca Jones, absolutely beautiful. Dominique, I love your style. Ernie, somehow you wove something seriously mysterious, but full of light.
Hey, thank you.
Joe, to see more of Audrey work here, he has you on a website.
Joe Wheeler, I love you. Joe is from Culture Lab LAC and has supported me so much through the years and allowed me to do really amazing and powerful work in that space. So we got to support each other. It takes the village. And
you know, and as far as I'm concerned, you know, the things that we talk about in these meetings, whether they're quality of life issues or the arts or whatever, it's all holistic. And I think everything is all related to each other. And the work that a government agency does, there's a lot to do with creating that atmosphere and ambience that we all live within. So that's why we try and do these meetings. That's why I'm trying to combine these different things. So
I think this is an amazing idea. Do not stop doing this.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now we have a very interesting change coming. Okay. So.
Wait, did you want me to do one more or no? You guys?
Oh, what time is it now? You know, we have time. Yes, if you'd like to do another, okay, we can
totally
do that.
Up to you.
I like that. Good. Yes, we do have time. We're not running too far behind. Good.
Yay.
Okay, one more.
Okay, one more. I wrote this today. Thanks everybody for your ears and your eyes and your love. I really appreciate it. I am River. The way she runs herself over stones, salt, sand, all of these things we stop being able to feel when we become too human to hold the force of our desires. Nature, does she know temperance? Or do we see her longing stirred bare in winter, in raging fires, in microbursts, downing trees in storms? What does it mean to be uprooted, yet still enough to plunge your hands into the hollows, not feeling at once the absence, but as well the presence of all to be? The mysteries of death and dying, grief and generation, they lay side by side on the mother's bosom as she clasps us to her chest. It is we who must writhe between them. It is we who must be touched by all, inescapable the grandness of simply being what we are. Not just rocks in the riverbed. Not just birds on frigid waters, but a girl in her bed gently waking up. A girl in her bed breathing into the space of waking up. The porosity of that, stretched like one hand balancing as we relearn the dance by touching without touching, insides and outsides at the same time. When I saw the pooling of water over my heart, as if I was a great gray stone, I cried both from relief and not knowing how a held, earthen loving could so belong. What of me now? Chest bare in the morning light, one smooth compression of mineral movement sitting squarely at my breast. And I am not woman, I am river, I am under all the fingers that have touched me. But this internality alone, it is hers, it is mine. Making love requires warming every stone against your own body before you lay it on the beloved or yourself. There is no further superficiality. It is all the loss and umber. Every time we give or bring our death, that is exactly what it is. Flesh falls away to be reignited inside itself again. Pigments in soul bones re-molecularized, bereft and renewed. How something so cold, if you held it close to you for long enough, miraculous to transmute, suffusing with itself and also you, to become permeable to this kind of wonder. Is there anything else that we would pray to do? Thank you.
Thank you. Audrey Dimola, ladies and gentlemen.
Happy to be here, y'all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're now lucky enough to have in our presence a wonderful man, Dr. Guillermo Linares. He's the first Dominican-born elected to public office in the United States, and in 1992 to 2001, he was in the New York City Council. He was elected in 2010 to the New York State Assembly, and he's served as commissioner of the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs from 2004 to 2009. And for the past 40 years, Dr. Linares has remained committed to improving public education and championing immigration issues. And He is also instrumental in the founding of the CUNY Dominican Studies Institute at City College, the Audubon Partnership of Economic Development, and the Center for Latin American and Latino Studies at the CUNY Graduate Center. He also, in 1995, was appointed by President Bill Clinton with the White House Initiative for Educational Excellence for Hispanic Americans. So he is now the president or direct president of the Higher Education Service Corporation of New York State. And as often happens this time of year, often heads of agencies or state officials go out and they try and spread the word of our governor's budget, the state budget. So he's here to give us information in a presentation on what Governor Cuomo and the state government has foresees for the future for the budget. So without further ado, I would like to bring out Dr. Guillermo Linares.
Thank you, Richard, for that kind introduction. It's really great, and Audrey was really fantastic in her presentation. So it's really wonderful for me to have the opportunity to share the overview of the New York State budget. So I'm going to run through the many slides that we have, and if there are any questions at the end, we'd be glad to try to answer, and if we can, then we'll get back with any information that we will follow up with.
Yes,
So
I would like to add here quickly to everyone, if they do put a question in the comment section of YouTube or Facebook, please add your email address or some way to contact you. We can't answer the question unless we know how to reach you. So, excuse me. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
So we are looking at this budget as a way to reimagine, rebuild, and renew New York State. 2020 has come to an end, and we say to that, amen. It's now time to set our sights on 2021 with a spirit of optimism that is grounded in experience and focus on reimagining, rebuilding, renewing New York State. New York will lead with a bold 7-point action plan. First, defeat COVID. Second, vaccinate 70 to 90% of New Yorkers. Third, deal with the short-term economic crisis. Fourth, plan our long-term economic future. Fifth, shift our economy toward green energy. Sixth, capitalize on the coming changes in our society and economy from COVID. And seventh, address systemic injustices revealed during COVID. We must vaccinate 70 to 90% of New Yorkers in the largest governmental effort since World War II. The rollout will ensure there is a social and racial justice to overcome existing barriers for Black, Latino, Asian, Native Americans. It's hard for me to see. Rural and poor New Yorkers to access the vaccine. Governor Cuomo will establish a public health corps and hire 1,000 fellows to assist with the vaccination effort and any future crisis. New York will launch a free and online citizen public health training program with Cornell and SUNY to educate and certify thousands of New Yorkers to volunteer to help their communities. We will expand access to telehealth by increasing coverage, eliminating obsolete regulations, and mandating coverage for mental health and substance abuse. The governor will enact the Medical Supply Act, which will prioritize buying American-made PPE and medical supplies to promote domestic manufacturers and reduce dependency on overseas products. The state is working with 20 New York City companies to produce PPE and other materials. COVID caused $15 billion in deficit. New York State cannot manage this alone. Washington must cover the cost of COVID. Our budget is constructed with two options. One, New York State receives $6 billion, which is a worst case scenario. Two, New York State receives $15 billion, which is fair funding. The worst case scenario, New York State has to find $9 billion more through tax increases, dramatic cuts to schools, health care, and social services. The fair funding scenario, Washington pays the $15 billion it owes New York State for COVID, supports 2021 agenda, healthcare, affordable housing, education, childcare, and labor agreements. Fair funding also means repealing SALT cap. Cost New Yorkers $30 billion over 3 years. SALT cap hurts every part of New York State with higher taxes. The SALT assault hit New York City harder than any other part of New York State. 541,214 New York City filers have paid more in taxes since 2017. Average cost statewide is $2,600 per home. We will legalize adult use cannabis, creating more than 60,000 new jobs, generating around $350 million tax revenue annually, and launching a $100 million social equity fund. New York will allow mobile sports betting to potentially raise $500 million per year. Reopen quick and safely with new rapid testing sites in city centers and office buildings, and new COVID passport app. So restaurants and others businesses can confirm vaccination and negative test. The arts will return with over 150 pop-up performances across the state, and will launch, it's hard for me to see, provide financial support to 1,000 artists. The most heavily impacted sectors, including restaurants, arts, and tourism, will receive $130 million in tax breaks to assist in recovery and bring back jobs. New York will ban penalties and late fees for missed residential payments and expand the moratorium on residential evictions to include commercial properties. Next. New York $306 billion infrastructure plan is the largest in the nation. Midtown West see new outdoor spaces, affordable housing, and improvement under a $51 billion plan that will create 96,000 jobs and spur new economic activity. A new Port Authority bus terminal will improve mass transit on the west side and create new residential and commercial spaces. Governor Cuomo has proposed extending the High Line to connect pedestrians from Empire Station Complex to Hudson Yards and the Javits Center and the Hudson River Park. The Tall Pound at Pier 76 will be demolished to create a magnificent public space. The nearly completed $1.5 billion expansion at the Javits Center will increase capacity by 50%. Penn Station $16 billion renovation and expansion will bring more light circulation space and greater capacity to the rail hub. LaGuardia Airport, the first new U.S. airport in 25 years, will have created 14,000 jobs and served 30 million passengers each year when open. New York State will also move forward with proposed $2 billion LaGuardia Air Train. JFK International Airport, $13 billion transportation have created nearly 30,000 jobs upon completion with a capacity for 75 million passengers per year. The MTA will accelerate parts of the $51 billion capital plan, including modernized signals, ADA-compliant upgrades, maintenance projects, and new bus and train cars. The plan includes extending the 2nd Avenue subway to East 125th Street with multi-year federal support. A $1.7 billion upgrade will give trucks direct access to home points from the Bruckner Expressway and Sheridan Boulevard. We will add a 4th lane to the Van Wyck Expressway to ease traffic congestion. The final phase of the 700 million Kew Garden interchange will finish in 2022. The nation's largest green economy build-out, 12,400 megawatts of clean energy to power 6 million homes, create 50,000 jobs, spur $29 billion in investment, and make New York State energy 55% renewable. Expanding a public-private partnership, build nearly 100 renewable onshore solar, wind, and hydroelectric energy projects across the state. We will build the nation's largest offshore wind program, including 2 new farms that will create 5,200 jobs. New York State will create a global wind manufacturing powerhouse, including Albany, Caymans, Montauk, Port Jefferson, and South Brooklyn Marine Terminal. We will build a green energy transmission superhighway with 250 miles under construction in 2021, and New York State issue an RFP for up to 300 more miles to bring clean energy from upstate and Canada to downstate and create more than 1,000 jobs. SUNY will lead a new offshore wind workforce training institute to train at least 2,500 New Yorkers for good paying jobs in wind and renewable energy. The Commission on the Future of New York Economy will draw a roadmap to address the underlying inequities exposed by COVID-19 crisis and get New York back to work. Expand workforce development support with commitments from major companies to train thousands of New Yorkers, invest $5 million in certifications for high-need jobs, and expand SUNY's online training centers. Governor Cuomo will create a first-in-the-nation mandate to provide affordable $15 per month internet service for all low-income families. New York will eliminate monthly health care premiums for over 400,000 New Yorkers, saving families nearly $100 million per year and enrolling 100,000 New Yorkers who are currently uninsured. Remove barriers to getting workers and businesses up and running by eliminating the rule that penalizes unemployment insurance recipients who work part-time. We will invest in access to child care, including $40 million to reduce parent co-pays, $5 million to create facilities in child care deserts, and new tax credits to encourage employers-provided child care. New York will create crisis stabilization centers for homeless individuals with severe mental illness as a better alternative than emergency rooms and jail. Nourish New York will receive an additional $25 million to provide families in need with food from New York State farms. Address domestic and gender-based violence. Requires abusers to pay for victims' housing, moving, and other housing costs related to domestic violence. Close the gun purchasing loophole that allows abusers to buy a weapon with a new domestic violence misdemeanors. Coordinate state support through a new office to end domestic and gender-based violence. And all local governments must enact a plan to modernize policing strategies and strengthen relationship with their communities by April 1st. We will continue to support our support for the Liberty Defense Fund so immigrants can seek a better life for themselves and their families. Governor Cuomo has proposed an automatic moratorium on utility disconnections in regions where the a state of emergency is declared. We will strengthen digital privacy by mandating companies be more transparent about their practices and ensure users can delete their data. Reform New York State elections, speed up vote counting, additional evening early voting hours, pass no excuse absentee voting, expand time to request an absentee ballot to 45 days, that is. When things were at their worst last year, New Yorkers showed their best. New Yorkers will win the war on COVID. New York will master the post-COVID reconstruction. Together, we will reimagine, rebuild, renew New York. And that concludes the overview that I had. I apologize because some of the wordings were in white, so they were very hard for me to read, but I did my best. If you have any comments, any questions, I'll be happy to try to respond.
Well, there was a lot there.
Yes.
It's a lot to unpack, actually. I know that probably for everyone that, again, I want to reiterate, for everyone that maybe would like to go over this stuff again, the link will still be available on our Facebook page. And if you have questions, you can email us with questions and we'll do our best to get responses back. There are some questions here. Let me see now. Okay, hold on. I know one question I thought of right off the top of my head was you talked about salt. I know that that's a tax issue, but some people may not be exactly aware specifically of what salt is, and it wasn't really described in the presentation. So I wonder if somebody could do that.
I'll give you a quick version. In 2017, the federal government, under the previous administration, decided to limit the deductions to $10,000 for New Yorkers, and that represented a double tax for New Yorkers, meaning that we pay much more to the federal government than we get back. And on top of that, as a state, then we were limited. And that has cost us about $30 billion in 3 years. And it has impacted on all New Yorkers from one end to the other, but especially hit harder to New York City. And this is something, this is a question of fairness. And we have this very high in our priority in order for us, especially now during COVID and its impact and the economic impact on the state. We want to have this repealed, and we're confident that we will hopefully have that now with the new administration.
Yeah, this was part of the tax cut at the beginning of the Trump administration, correct?
This was in 17, yes.
Yeah.
3 years back, we were hit with this one. It was like double whammy for New York State.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, that's that. Okay, also, I know specific to Astoria, one of the most interesting things is the wind farm, which is, I think if I'm not incorrect, it's going to be off of Red Hook, from what I understand. And I guess it will be actually feeding into a battery farm in the sense that we're building here in one of the facilities here on the northern side of Astoria. And I'm not sure how the transmission is going to be handled. Is it going to be through the water? Is it going to be over land? Will that have any effect that you know of on here in the residents of Astoria?
Well, my sense is, I mean, this is in the, this is on the works. So there's going to be a lot of engagement with communities. And needless to say, one of the things that will drive future development for New York State and especially New York City with the concentration that we have is really the environmental impact that it will have, especially where we have high concentration, and which is the case for New York City and Queens, so including Astoria. So this is something that will involve the communities that will be benefiting from the green energy and the new approach that we have to, again, protect the environment and also safeguard the safety of all New Yorkers. So this is something that I think will be carefully approached to make sure that we enhance the environment rather than the other way around.
Good, good. To let people know exactly the procedure, this is a proposed budget by the governor, but it still has to go through the legislature. And
Yes,
where
it is.
they make their own recommendations. And then I'm assuming there's some sort of a negotiation process here. So until we come out with the entire final budget, could I get an better idea of the procedure and the timeline?
Yeah. We're now undergoing the budget hearings that involve all of the state agencies across the board, and the legislature, then and the governor will address the best way to approach the priorities that the governor has presented, and by the end of March, we will bring closure to the budget process, and by April 1st, we anticipate an on-time budget. Again, looking at what relief we may be able to get from the federal government to being the impact of the pandemic has hit us harder than any other state, as we all know. All of that will play out in the weeks ahead, leading to the approval of the budget.
Okay.
If I may,
Yes.
the governor made an announcement that I think is great news for New York State, but especially for Queens residents, including Astoria. That there's an initiative now that involves the state of New York and the federal administration to expand the availability of the vaccine. There is going to be a center that will be involved both federal authorities, the federal government and the state government, to create a vaccination center that will be about 3,000 vaccinations a day, and that will be in York College. Another center similar will be in Brooklyn, where there's also a high need to vaccinate. And also with that comes a commitment to increase the number of vaccines that we need to have to build up and make sure that we get to all New Yorkers as quickly as possible. So that's a bit of good news that was announced today by the governor and the federal authorities, to increase the number of New Yorkers getting vaccinated, which is key to reopen the economy and also to turn around and defeat this pandemic.
I may have missed some things because there was a lot that we went through. When you went through those different programs, I didn't notice, were you defining between the best and worst case scenarios? Because, if we don't get the money we need from the federal government, a lot of those things will just fall off the table, I would assume at this point. This was all best case scenario, what you presented, right?
Yeah, the worst case scenario is that we only get $6 billion to really try to keep afloat. In order for us to deal with that, there will be extreme pain. Is the worst case scenario for the state of New York. If we did not get relief from the federal government, we're feeling cautiously optimistic that there will be relief coming to the state of New York and other states that have been severely impacted, but no state has been as hard hit as New York State, as we all know, getting hit early on, early last year. And so we hope that it is scenario number 2, where we will get relief from the impact of the pandemic. That will be the $15 $15 billion that represent the deficit that we currently have. Otherwise, there will be a lot of pain. But we're optimistic that we will have the second option for us as New Yorkers, which is fair. It would be fair. It's really giving back to New Yorkers what they deserve.
Good. One thing that's a particular interest here in Astoria, and it has to do, it actually took, it was a particular interest to the governor actually last summer, but that's our restaurants and our small business. It's been very, very hard hit. Things actually got out of hand a little bit last in our parks and on our streets last summer. It was a difficult time, a lot of emotions. I'd like to go over again what the plans are to try and bring back small business. You know, what I know, one thing that in my particular case, I know he announced that weddings are coming back online. But one of the questions that we had as musicians and things is that, you know, how are they going to allow dancing? And then you explained something in here about an app that people would be able to take to prove that they got the COVID test, so that they could go into a venue or go into something, be allowed in. Is that how that's going to work? Because that was a big question on our mind. How does a catering hall decide who can get in and who can't?
Yeah, well, first of all, the governor had announced that he was going to allow for restaurants to open by Valentine's Day, and you know, the request to do it a little earlier to help them prepare for Valentine's Day, meaning I believe is this Friday.
Right.
The governor decided to you know, change the date so that it will be Friday in order for restaurant to be able to prepare for that important day for the economy. And I would say that in addition to that, you know, that there are initiatives now as we look, as the numbers continue to improve, while we recognize the pain that this pandemic has had, especially on small businesses, that the steps be taken for the opening of small businesses, obviously with the precautions that are in place of the testing that ought to be placed, and social distancing, and the mask that also is a mandate. But knowing how much pain this pandemic has caused, especially on small businesses, the governor is cognizant on that, and the app will help facilitate, you know, for that process to unfold. Is one of many initiatives. And just today, the governor was also announcing that larger venues are now under consideration to open gradually, of course. Larger venues like weddings and other arenas, and the arts. There are a number of initiatives all geared to reopening, especially those that have been most impacted, so that we can get back to normal as we focus on, you know, defeating the COVID and get back to some type of normality. But again, being sensitive to the pain. Also, we're hopeful that the relief coming from the federal government will be able to assist small businesses and families across the state.
One thing that we also would hope, and this is actually going to come up not specifically with the state, but New York City more, but in the next meeting that we're going to be involved with, which is with the Oath Corp, is fines for small business and for smaller developers and things like that. But also the state has, through the SLA, has a very strong fining, disciplinary system, I guess you could say, to small business. Is there ever any thought towards relooking at some of the large fines that were given to some restaurants, and maybe they can recoup some of that money? Because it's been very, very, very difficult. And some people did make mistakes. Everybody's admitting it, but if they went out there and they fixed it, I would hope that, in fact, they have a chance to recoup some of that funds, because they're vital right now just to survive.
Yeah. Well, we know how much this has impacted, especially the small businesses and mom and pop businesses, and this is something that the budget also tries to address in terms of penalties that or the enforcement that comes along with the process of opening, and that's part of what we want to be sensitive with as we proceed to reopen.
Well, you have it's a great vision with this budget. If most of this goes through, it's going to be wonderful for our society, for our quality of life, for our children. It's a great vision. Like I said, I hope that it comes to fruition. But you have to have the vision before it's even possible of coming to vision. So I think that this kind of blueprint is very, very important. So is there anything that, if there's a particular subject that you think is very important, that anybody, should they reach out to their assembly person or senators in order to maybe facilitate that? Would that be a way that they can push any aspect that they want?
Well, the one thing that I want to highlight, which is a challenge, is that one of the things that we want to make sure gets across to all New Yorkers is that we finally have what we need to defeat COVID, and that is the vaccine. And as we increase the number as New Yorkers from the federal government, we want to make sure that every single New Yorker knows that based on what the scientists are saying, it is safe to take it. And so we have the largest network, thousands of points where you could go and get a vaccine. The challenge we have right now is that we're not getting enough of them. But the good news is that the amount of vaccine will increase significantly. And we have the platform, we have the point where New Yorkers will be able to go, regardless of what neighborhood you are and what zip code. Be sure to take advantage of getting the vaccine, because that will be what will get us over to the other side. And so we can go back to normal as a state. And that's the one thing that I want to emphasize. We're involving nonprofit, the churches, the trusted individuals, including institutions and representative, a local and state and federal level, the small business community. Everyone needs to be on the same page here to make sure that we get the most New Yorkers vaccinated, because that will be what will give us what we need to have to get to defeat the COVID. And we have now the tool to be able to defeat it and come out the other side much better off and stronger as New Yorkers.
We have a comment from Ernie Brooks, representative of Congresswoman Maloney. Congresswoman Maloney is fighting to make sure that the upcoming COVID relief bill will deliver the federal aid so desperately needed in District 12. So, in fact, this is what we need to do. Have our other representatives, whether it be with the federal government or even getting Albany to go along with what you're saying too, because people have many different views there too, as you know. One other thing I'd like to bring up too, one thing that's been different is there's been a difference in the sense in some ways between New York City and the rest of the state. And not just during COVID, but I know in years past, there were situations like with NYSERDA grants and things like that, where the grants were based on somebody's gross income, okay? And what was happening was that somebody in New York State, their gross income disqualified them from getting any kind of grant. But the same building in Buffalo or something where the gross income is much less, but then the costs are much less too, would qualify. So I would hope that in general, any of these programs that are put together, things be done on a net income, not on a gross income basis, because I felt that was very unfair. Somebody could have a 3-family building that wanted energy efficiency done here, couldn't get it done because his rents were too high. The same building in Buffalo could get it done because the rents were lower, but then again, the building itself cost 1/3 or 1/4 of what the building cost here. So there needs to be more thought towards equity between New York City, downstate, and the rest of the state. So that's just a comment that I'd like to make. And whatever programs come through, I hope that's done.
Be glad to bring that back. And you know, one of the things that I think this governor has brought is, you know, the idea that, you know, whether upstate or Western New York or New York City, we're all in the same boat here, and we need to have an approach where, you know, opportunities are there across the board, and particularly those who are most vulnerable, and no matter which area of the state, are not, you know, are not neglected or ignored. And you know, the approach of the budget and the leadership of the governor has had that very much in mind. But you know, again, there's always opportunities for us, especially now when we've been impacted to such an extreme level that I think it takes us back to the Great Depression. That's how bad we've been lately. But those are opportunities for us to rise up and be even stronger and more united. And I think that that's the approach that this governor has had. And New Yorkers, we have so much to be proud of how they've helped us in these difficult times. But you know, it's also a learning experience for us to be able to show not just New Yorkers, but also the rest of the country, as the case has been under this pandemic.
One comment from Dominique about the problems with getting an appointment. Along those lines, has there been any thoughts towards creating a universal database for all different programs so that you could sign up for one database and get access to the vaccines? I know it's been very difficult for me. I don't always have the time to check everything every day. So is there a thought towards creating any kind of a universal database to get a vaccine appointment?
Well, we're working on especially preparing now that we are approaching to reach high gear with the vaccine, you know, the vaccination process that we have ahead of us. We're only in the beginning stages. And it's been challenging for us as a state to engage as we have turned to virtual. It's been challenging across the board, but I think we are in the front line, serving New Yorkers in the multiple ways that we have, either through our website or to other means of communication. And I say that we, on a daily basis, are continuing to improve. the way we communicate and get across. Right now, what we're looking is to make sure that we vaccinate the vast majority of New Yorkers, because until we do that, and so we have a great infrastructure doing that with technology. We want to continue to use that, and hopefully New Yorkers that cannot have access to the internet or website, they can always reach out through phone numbers that we have available. We want to make sure that New Yorkers are informed and know where in their neighborhood they can have access to the vaccine or any other help that we can provide.
Is there some way you could put in the chat any contact information? We're getting requests specifically on how to get an appointment. They'd like specific information. Maybe Jordan, maybe you have something that we could put in there that would be a clearinghouse or something, or tell them to contact?
Sure.
You put it into the private chat and then it'll be moved over to the comment section. This is Jordan Bieberman. She's the representative of Governor Cuomo in Queens. Thank you for all your help. She helped, she was essential in putting this together this evening.
And one way for us to, for any New Yorker or anyone connecting with us is to go to the New York State website, nys.ny.gov. And if it's COVID related, that you know, that is very prominent for you to access whatever information we have available that, you know, will lead you to information.
It'll be on the landing page for the government. Okay.
Let me just walk everyone through it. So if you'd like to make an appointment through one of the state facilities in Queens, we have the Aqueduct open right now. You can go to the state website, amieligible.covid19vaccine.health.ny.gov, and it will walk you through all of that in order to make an appointment online. You can also call our hotline, which is 1-833-NYS for the number VAX, VAX, or 1-833-697-4829. Again, that's 1-833-697-4829. And those are for our big max vaccine sites in New York City. Currently, we have the Javits Center and we have Aqueduct in Queens. There's also a number of pop-up sites that we are partnering with Somos Community Care. So if you'd like to get more information on the pop-up sites, you can go to somosvaccinations with an S at the end.com or call 133-SOMOS-NY. Thank you.
Okay. We did get a comment from Dominique. She says she's gone to that site, but with no appointments available. She keeps getting told. She's getting told. I know she's eligible, so I know she's probably getting frustrated.
Which site?
Dominique, which site? The New York.gov?
New York.gov?
I don't know. She hasn't answered yet.
Okay.
Anyway, Victor, were you able to put these sites in the chat for people? Or Jordan, did you send the information to him?
Yep, I just did.
Okay, good. Oh, good, perfect.
Yeah, and I want to say part of the frustration is the fact that we have not been getting. We were trying our best to get vaccine for the much higher number of New Yorkers that were qualifying, and we're finally beginning to get an increase in the number of vaccines, and we're prepared to take it to scale. Just to give you an idea, we have done, according to the governor's news sharing this today, we have of the vaccine that were delivered to us, we have really put in people's arm 95% of them. The problem is that we're not getting enough for those in most need, but that is changing because President Biden has committed to increase the number that we'll be getting, and that's all good news for us.
Yeah, I know that this is a city situation, but City Field opened up, but they only could give 200 injections in a day.
We're gearing up to have a center that will have the potential to vaccinate on a daily basis. I believe is I forgot the number right now, but it's 5,000 if I'm if I read correctly.
Well, I would say to Dominique, I know it's a problem. And it is a lot of it. I think is about availability of the vaccines. But I personally was able to get it through my hospital. Through New York Presbyterian Hospital. They actually called me. So you may want to sign up with whoever your hospital is, and they may be able to call you and get you an appointment. That did work for me. So. Anyways, I really appreciate the time we put into it. It's 8:30 now, so you've done a great job. And I'm looking forward to the final result. I hope you can come back in the middle of April and let us know what actually got through. Okay. And again, if anyone has further questions, you can go to our Facebook page. You can see this whole presentation again. If you have specific questions on some of the slides that maybe you weren't able to get to, just email us and we'll get them directly to the governor's office, and we'll get the everything response as soon as possible to you. We'd like to thank Dr. Linares for joining us. It's a privilege and an honor. And we hope that you come and join us again. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Richard.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to remind everybody about January 25th. This is for people with small business on the oath administrative trials and hearings court. We'll be discussing how to deal with it. It's at 2:00 on February 25th, and it'll be on the YouTube page of EMBCA. That stands for the Eastern Mediterranean Business and Cultural Alliance. Victor, if you could put that in the chat, that would be great. I don't have the specific link, but it is on their YouTube page. So I hope you join us. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody next month. At this point, we will be having one speaker from the Furman Center, which is the housing center for New York University. We're going to be discussing development and gentrification, and we also will be having again another performing artist, and we'll probably have some other presentations also. I'm looking forward to the day when we can all see each other in person again, but I hope everybody enjoyed this meeting. If you have any comments or anything on these meetings, how we can improve them, what you liked, what you didn't like, please let us know. We're trying to make this better and better every day. So thank you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for the volunteerism, that the people in Old Astoria always have. This is what makes our neighborhood great, is to have people involved. So thank you so much. Good night now.